here's my spiel today, okay? I have kind of been at a crossroads with food foresting, permaculture, agritopia, polyculture, biodiversity, all the things that, all the labels. Sorry, my washer has been broken for 2 months and I've been washing everything all summer long. Sorry, towels and things hanging out. That's why. That being said, so I've been in a crossroads of teaching you guys this stuff because I have been getting a lot of adversity from my surrounding environment. Meaning, I have people surrounding me, right, that don't appreciate or understand what I'm doing necessarily. It's the things that are happening. So, getting very frustrated with this connection situation. Okay. So, not sure if you heard anything I said. We had lost my dad to cancer. They gave him 4 months. He lived a year and a half. 2 days after we buried him, we found out my mom had cancer. And we were thrown right back into the whole system. That made me question a lot of things. I was a gardener for that, you know, trying to garden and stuff like that in university. I'd go out, woo, there goes my phone. Trying to garden, thank you. Trying to garden outside of my apartment in Iowa and Texas and Louisiana, and trying to garden and be healthy and stuff like that because I am a chef at heart. I do cooking shows. So if you're subscribed to my channel, you know I do cooking shows. But it's important to know where your food comes from. It's good to have the connection of how to plant that thing, what goes into making that thing, how do I appreciate that thing, and then bring it to my family. So this is kind of a real passion of mine. And it's not just because it's important to be healthy. It's because I literally was thrown into 2 parents having cancer. One I lost and one I thought I was going to lose within a span of, you know, a very short time. The 2 most important people in my entire universe. So I changed a lot of things. I was up here helping take care of my dad before he passed. And then I was here taking care of my mom. And as I looked around, if you don't know my background, I have a couple degrees. I have a number of not minors, but my base is in science and pre-med. I started in pre-vet and then went to pre-med and finished with a pre-med degree in chemistry, minor in chemistry, sorry. And I'm also an athlete, a world-class athlete. So health and fitness and being healthy are very important to me and always have been. But this was a whole nother level of, we've got to figure something out. Obviously, we're doing something wrong. Why? My parents were very healthy as far as I knew. But as I took a look at what was going on in the world, where are we getting our food from? What are we putting in our bodies? Where is it coming from? What is happening to that food? You start to realize, and you start looking at the news and you start looking at the research, and you see that there's herbicides, pesticides, steroids, hormones, all kinds of things that could be causing so many problems. And that's why I started what I'm doing. So the people around me, surrounding me, also know my story because this is where my parents lived. They knew my parents, and they know what has happened. They know the reasons behind what I'm doing. So you would think. It doesn't matter. As soon as someone feels inconvenienced by whatever, they're concerned about them and theirs. And I get that. I get it. But I'm concerned about me and mine's as well. So, like I said, I've been at a crossroads trying to teach you guys because I have been dealing with a lot of stuff this summer. Not just, we had been sick in our household as well. I have a 4-year-old toddler. It's difficult to get out here and garden a lot and film a lot and edit like I used to. But also I've been dealing with outside situations. So yeah, do I want to teach you guys to do this and set you up for potential failure in your surroundings? Not really. I don't want you guys to be dealing with the crap that I'm dealing with. But what I'm going to do is discuss what's going on here. Food forest, biodiversity, polyculture. What are these catch terms? What do they actually mean? Well, obviously, a food forest is kind of self-explanatory. A food forest is, you know, a garden that you're planting where you walk outside. It sort of looks like a forest, and it provides you with food. All the plants provide food. So what I started doing was pulling things from my garden that weren't working for me. I'm not busting my butt for something that's not busting its butt for me. Grass, bye. I can't eat grass. Grass costs me money. It costs me time and effort to mow it. It costs me money to mow it. I have to either buy gas to do it, maintain my stupid lawnmower, or pay someone to come and do that constantly on the regular, all the time for something that doesn't give me anything. It's bio-intensive and it gives me nada. So pulled that out. Anything that wasn't producing food or medicine for me, it was gone. It was getting trimmed back. Unless it was something that mom was like in love with, you're gone. So that's where I started. Okay. Fast forward like 15 years, 16, 17, 18, gosh, how long? 18 years. Fast forward 18 years. Here we are. I have a highly sustainable food forest garden. I use a biodiversity plan. I deal with permaculture. So what does that mean? Biodiversity means you have a bunch of different plants. You're not bio-intensively planting tomatoes, peppers, carrots, all in a line, all in perfect rows, as a lot of farms do, right, these days. So biodiverse means a big diversity of, biological matter. So a huge diversity of plants. I have so many different plants, but there is method to all of my madness. There is method, and permaculture is the foundation of what I'm working with. So permaculture is something whereby which you start planting things that are more sustainable, things that are more perennial. There is less work. Things that are more native to your area, things that will reseed themselves. Permaculture gives you 7 different layers: a top canopy, like my huge pines, a shorter canopy with some fruit trees, which I can't show you right here. If I move away from my house, for some reason, I'm getting disconnected. So say a fruit tree, apple trees. There's an apple tree there, but it has no leaves on it, so it looks bad right now. It's fall. It's raining. I'm in the rain. But this is important. So you're going to have a subcanopy layer, and that's your taller, fruit trees and things like that. I have a huge oak tree, so that does provide acorns when it's not infested with insects. And we'll talk about that maybe in another video. So then you have your subcanopy of fruit trees and things like that, things that are producing more food. And then you have bushes like this. This is a small dogwood tree, actually, but it's very small right now. I have some currants. I have some raspberries, blueberries, Saskatoon berries, things like that underneath those subcanopy trees. Then you have an herbaceous layer. I've got things like flowering things like daylilies and whatnot, and all kinds of herbs. Then you have ground cover, like creeping herbs, things like that. And then you have a layer of fungi or mushrooms, which I have been, sporing my mulch. So my entire property gets mulch, and that's a huge issue for my surroundings people. They don't like how I'm doing things. That being said, my garden has never been so prolific. I have never had so many less weeds, noxious weeds, i.e. from their gardens around my neighborhood, because they grow grass and they have all kinds of things growing in their grass that blow through the air, through the wind, and are transferred by animals and things like that. So I do like a lot of drop-ins. I'm not mad at dandelions and lamb's quarters and things that are edible and medicinal, but there are some noxious weeds like thistles and things like that that grow that you don't want. So my mulch, not only does it nourish my soil, but it also provides a protective barrier for these terrible yucky weeds that I don't want. My garden has never been so weed-free, ever. I do have one entity out here that feels that they don't like to look at my garden. Well, it's really Neither here nor there. Just saying. She actually told the police that it's just a bunch of weeds, and it's not a bunch of weeds. It's actually all food and all medicine. It's just not grass, biointensive grass, and a few flowers here and there. When you do something that's different than what other people are doing, it makes people a little uncomfortable if they don't understand it, or if they haven't seen it, or if it's not what they're used to seeing. And I mean, there you go. You're going to come with adversity if you're trying to do something like this. You're taking a bite of the pie, and you're going to have to take a big slice with it. So, that being said, I'm trying to make the best of it, and I need to get out here and I need to teach you guys what's going on. I haven't really been wanting to share anything, to be honest. I've been very discouraged and very disheartened and feeling rather beat down about a lot of it. But that being said, we still have to eat. And I still need to make sure that you guys know what to do in a situation like this. What do you do when you need to grow food? What do you do when you're tired of mowing your lawn and you can't afford the food prices and you're seeing shortages on the shelf? What do you do? How are you going to feed your family? Are you going to move into an apartment where then for sure you can't provide for your family? Like, you sure can't grow enough food on a balcony of your apartment to feed your family. So staying on a property where you at least have some land to do something, that's very helpful. There are some places, I have to go underneath the porch. There are some places that are offering things like CSA, so community shared agriculture situation. So they are providing you an area or a space to grow food. And in exchange, typically they want shares in said endeavor. So you would provide them, say, with a basket of your harvest every week or every other week or whenever you're harvesting, when you're using their property. But I mean, it's not at your location. You can't control everything there. It will take time out of your schedule and your own location or caregiving or taking care of your kids or whatever to go out there and try and farm this land. Mind you, it's an option. So keep in mind, CSA, look that up. You might find it on, like, say, Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, or just advertise somewhere. A lot of people are offering that simply because they want their land worked and they would like not to have to do it themselves, but still have somewhat of a bounty of a harvest. So it's kind of a good community shared situation. Fair enough. Permaculture. So there's 7 layers: canopy, sub-canopy, then you have your bush layer, you have your herb layer, you have your ground cover, you have your fungus layer, and then you have vines. And this year I've been working on making sure that my fungus layer is getting a little more established, as well as my vine situation. Also, there's a lot of nuances in each of those layers. So you're growing your herb layers, and it might just look like a big mess to someone. But seriously, there is method to all of the madness. And whereas bio-intensive farming is one thing and you're getting quite a lot of tomatoes or a lot of cucumbers or a lot of whatever, biodiversity gives you the opportunity to alleviate so many pests. So you're mad at whatever cutworm or moths or whatever eating your garden. What do people do? They spray pesticides, they spray herbicides. What does that do? Well, that fights that pest. But what happens next year? You got to spray again. What happens the next year? You got to spray again. And what happens is you're infecting your soil and you're changing the diversity around you. So not only are you alleviating those pests that are bugging the mess out of you, you are now not giving your predators that come to naturally handle those pests, you're not giving them food. You're not giving them a reason to come. And so now the whole burden is on you to get rid of that particular pest all the time. So if you're alleviating, say, caterpillars from your tree, save some. Keep some there. Get rid of the majority of them if you feel like it or feel you need to, so that you have something to attract the predators to keep that thing in check. As I've been putting this whole system into use over the last, decade or so, I see things change. I see the balance changing. I see nature taking its course. We're always fighting nature, and I'm always harping to you guys, stop fighting nature. I see nature taking its course. You seed a bunch of seeds, you seed a bunch of plants, and you see that only a couple survive, or there are ones that start competing and they both do well. Or, nature will do its thing. Every spring I get really excited because I go outside and I start to see things grow, and I'll start to see things as well that I hadn't seeded. I hadn't planted myself, and I call them drop-ins. So either my birds have come by and they've dropped them in, or like other land animals that it was stuck to their fur or something like that, or they pooped it out, the seeds. But nonetheless, I get things that are native, that are hardy, that are perennial, that are most likely edible and medicinal in some manner. And it's kind of exciting to see new things that you didn't even have to try for. So if you take that to a whole nother level, permaculture is just that. I did a show not too long ago talking about how I didn't get a lot of time to see. I didn't seed one tray of vegetables and fruit or anything, herbs, like I usually do. I usually have my entire greenhouse full of stuff in the spring ready to be transplanted May to for weekend. This year, I didn't have anything. And like I said in that video, the proof was in the pudding. The work I've put into perennials and this permaculture system, if I wasn't a believer then, I am a believer now, because we have had food grow perennially just by itself without me having to do much work at all. I've hardly been out here gardening this year. And you know me, I'm a gardener. This is what I do. This is my career. This is what I teach you guys to do. This year was kind of a bust, and the adversity on top of it. But we've had food that I've hardly had to work for. And that's the entire point of it all. To be able to sustain your family in such a manner that you are comfortable enough knowing you're going to have food. Like, let's be real, people. The last few years, like, don't make me cry, has been difficult at best. Not just is everyone getting sick, not just have we been locked up, but the costs of food and everything else, not just food, but if you couldn't afford food in the first place, everything else that went up now has stretched you even further, that now you can't afford food. Food is going up. It's becoming less available. Gosh, I went and bought paper towels the other day, which cost more than anything else that I purchased, including meat. So yeah, if we're not going to do something, something's going to be done to us. Just saying. Please start gardening. Please do a little bit. Figure out something that will grow back for you next year you don't have to try for. Please figure out a fall garden. We still have time. I've been seeding today. I'll be seeding throughout the next few weeks. In fact, I'll be seeding all the way through winter so that I'm ready for spring. There are seeds you can still be sowing so that you're ready. Things are popping up in spring. Do not fret if you haven't started. Please just get out and start now. Start today. So all these scary terms, they're not scary. Biodiversity just means a whole bunch of different plants. Polyculture just means a whole bunch of different plants out there. Permaculture just means the system in which you're using different layers to maximize sunlight and maximize your space in such a way that everything proliferates and everything does better than if you are bio-intensely trying to plant rows of tomatoes, rows of peppers, rows of this and rows of that. It's a different way of doing things. Don't be scared of the terms. They're not scary. Food forest, that's an endearing term, and that's all it is. It's a food forest. You're going outside and you're being able to pick food. Okay? Not only that, people are under the assumption that a food forest garden is ugly. My garden is prolific. I have flowers, I have vegetables, I have such beautiful fruits growing, I have squashes growing, I have them trellising up my cedars. I have huge squashes 4 feet long growing. Like, they're insane. It's beautiful. And anyone that has even looked into anything like this, anyone that's a real gardener that's trying to grow food or has been trying to think of self-sustenance, self-sufficiency, self-reliance, whatever you want to call it, permaculture, biodiversity, polyculture, agritopia, whatever is the term that they have been looking at, if they come here, they're going to be like, wow, you're like doing this. It is really a possible thing in an urban setting. It is. But again, you will come across adversity. And even people that seem very open-minded and very open-hearted towards you can change on a dime based on one thing. Based on one thing that annoys them. Based on one thing that inconveniences them. Based on one thing. So never forget that. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that that is a possibility that is real and will happen. It will. It's not a matter of will it, it's a matter of when it. So be ready for that. But in my heart of hearts, I think that anyone should be allowed to garden on their property as they see fit to support their family. Okay? And if more of us did a little more of this, we wouldn't have a problem. We wouldn't have a food shortage. We wouldn't be concerned. We wouldn't be, back in the day when a lot of people were farmers, they were agricultural communities, many communities. We have less and less of them all the time. But I would say there was a much higher population of farmers out there. And the idea of money is always there, and you need money to purchase things from outside of your situation. But if you're producing the things that you need to purchase, otherwise, then you don't need that money to purchase it. So when people were growing their own food and growing their own necessities, growing their own needs, growing their wood on their property for their fires to produce energy to cook. They were growing all their own food. They were growing things to barter. The barter system was huge. Then you don't need that money otherwise for outside of the house because you're producing your own stuff. It's basically, I call it free 99. So grow perennials. Grow things that are edible. Do your research. I've done tons of research for many years on what plants are perennial, what is edible, and not just from your area. Look at your zone, but look at your zone around the world. So we're a zone 6 here in southern Ontario, but there is a zone 6 all around the entire same latitude of this planet. And on the bottom of this planet, there's a zone 6 as well under the equator. So anything that's up there or all around your latitude or the latitude in the zone 6 below the equator is fair game, and you may be able to grow. Learn from other cultures, learn from other locations. Try and make yourself more well-versed on your research. Do your research. You can pretty much buy seeds from anywhere now. So if you can figure out what'll grow in your area, that'll grow in your sun requirements. So if you have a ton of shade, find things that are edible that grow in the shade in your zone. There's a lot of ways to do searches online now. It makes it easy. So do your research. You can still grow stuff. I still am seeding. I was seeding this morning. I was seeding out here in the rain. Do a little bit every day. And I'm not saying be completely panicked. Okay? Don't live with a panic on you, but live with an urgency in such a way that you're making moves on a daily basis or regularly to make things easier for yourself. Grow things, research things, get some seeds in, plan your garden for spring if you're already behind or you feel like you just can't right now. Plan something, grow some herbs in the house, bring your sweet potato vines in. If you didn't know, they're edible. They grow in the shade. They are happy in your house all winter long, growing in huge long tendrils that are available for you to cook with raw or cooked all winter long. Okay, so all of your ipomoeas that you've grown, that you've purchased, for instance, here's just straight sweet potato from a sweet potato slip that went, started growing in my back pantry. But I've grown a lot of pretty ipomoeas as well that are patterned and lovely, and they're all edible too. Take a couple slips, take a cutting in the house, put it in a pot, and throw it up on your shelf. It will grow all winter, and you'll have some food, some greenery, some food. Start with baby steps, okay? Know that people are going to look at you funny. People in your family are going to think you're weird. People in your immediate household may not get it. Dealt with that too. They don't get it. They don't understand it. They wish you wouldn't do it. It makes them uncomfortable in some way, shape, or form. However, it's benefiting everyone in the house. It's benefiting your community if they let it. You would have such a bounty you could sell at your curb. You could sell online. Have people come curbside pickup for your excess. There shouldn't be such a shortage of food, people going hungry. People are really struggling now, and whether they're letting on to it or not, they're struggling. There is more struggle than there has ever been. People are making less money. Their jobs are definitely not secure. We are facing a potential shutdown again for this fall and winter again. Are you ready for that? Because if we go through the same thing we went through the last 2 years, a lot of us are in big trouble. Big trouble. Start making some steps. Don't ignore it. You cannot ignore this. It is in your face. It is at your doorstep. It's not just in your community. It's not around the corner. It's in your store every time you go. If it's not just me going to the grocery store and I'm depressed every time I go, it makes me want to cry almost every time I go grocery shopping because the things that were available are not available. Or they're so expensive that now I'm not purchasing them for my family anymore. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to substitute things. What are we going to do to change the way we're doing things? And I'm already set up with permaculture and doing stuff. So if I'm feeling unnervous and unsettled, surely you guys are. And if you're not, open your eyes of what's going on. Please, I'm begging you, take a look objectively at what is going on and where we're headed with this. Because maybe you're comfortable right now, but will you be comfortable in a couple months? Will you be comfortable in the spring, after winter, after a hard winter? Will you be comfortable next year? Are we going to have access to things? Is it going to be so expensive you can't afford it anymore? Are you going to lose your job in the middle of winter? It's potential, right? If things get shut down, people get laid off or completely shut down. Businesses are closing at a record rate because they can't sustain this. So guys, please, don't be scared of the terms. Look it up. Do some research. Just be well versed of what's going on and take some steps. There are still seeds available at your nurseries. There are still plants available at your nurseries, usually at a very discounted rate. Even just down the street, 75% off right now, even on perennials. Do your research. Go pick something up. Put a couple things in the ground. Feel a little more secure. And do that again. Save a little money every week and see what you can do to buy some seeds. Or store up. Buy some dried beans. Be ready for spring. I'm just saying, there are inexpensive ways to do this. It doesn't have to be super expensive going to the nursery in the spring when everything is full price and everything's really scary and you just don't even know where to start. Start by just doing some research. When you're putting things in the ground, the number one thing you want to look at is what you already have available in your yard. Look up what are your edible weeds in your area. Go through. There's an app called Leaf Snap. You can get it on your phone. Take a picture of anything. It'll show you what it is based on leaf, flower, fruit, and it'll tell you what it is. And it'll also, then you can look it up and see if it's edible or medicinal. Keep it if it's edible or medicinal. Keep it moving if it's not. Pull it out. So start off with what you already have available. Stop fighting nature. Those things are hardy. They come back every year. They're native. And maybe you don't know what to do with them, but you can figure it out. Okay? Secondly, then I want you to think of crops that produce the most calories, crops that are the most nutrient dense foods. That's where you want to start planting your food, and that's where you want to start transplants. If you have an area of your home that you can grow some plants over winter, that's great. If you have a little bit of a greenhouse, if you can put a hoop house up, polytunnel, cover your rows, you still have time to grow some things and to keep things growing until winter. You can have lettuces and kale and Swiss chard and brassicas and leafy greens, mustards, endive. You can grow onions. Excuse me. All the way up till Christmas. Some of my stuff grows under the snow and I just have to move the snow. Okay, there's some options. Anyways, I don't want to feel like I'm on my soapbox, but I often feel like I am. And I'm sorry if that's how it comes across. I hope it doesn't. I'm really just concerned with the grand scheme of things. I'm concerned with people shoving everything under the rug, these problems. These are huge problems. Food is like the hugest problem. Golly. Okay? So you're going to find adversity. People are not going to understand. People will get downright ugly. Will like downright threaten you. Will downright make your life miserable. So that's my disclaimer. If you're ready to hop up against that adversity and just go ahead and make sure your family is okay and you're growing food and all is well, then please feel free to do so and keep following and subscribe. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not easy work. It's hard work. You're going to get dirty. You're going to get sweaty. You're going to be aggravated, annoyed, and tired. But it's going to be worth every second that you put into that garden and that ground to make sure that you guys have food. Okay? For years to come. For forever, as long as you are where you're located. Okay? So I'm going to go in. It's getting cold. And I got to start cooking. We're canning. We've been canning for like a month. But yeah, without telling you exactly what's going on, that's what's been going on with me. And I haven't been wanting to share. And I haven't been wanting to open up. And I haven't been even wanting to come on here and talk, to be honest. In fact, I don't even want to come out in my yard half the time. So that's what's going on over here. You can fill in the blanks as you feel fit. But I'm still out here, and I'm still going to reap my harvest, and my plants are still going to come up next year, and I'm going to continue doing this for as long as I am able, because I have to, because it should be our God-given right to produce food for our family, and do what we have to do to make sure that we can live. Okay? So that being said, be a champion in your garden or your kitchen or wherever you are, cooking, canning, gardening, just get out there. Be outside. Soak up the last of this summer and the vitamin D out there, okay? Because it's going to be a long, cold winter up here. Maybe, hopefully it's not as cold where you are, but it's going to be cold here. It's going to be long. So I have to make as much food as I can to support us through till spring, when enough food is coming up to support us then. So that's my dilemma. I hope that you're somewhere warmer and you have more ability to grow. But if you don't, even if you're up here in the cold, there are still options to help you get things going and have food for your family. Okay? Bye. Y'all have a great holiday Monday. Hopefully we'll see you maybe tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning.